President, please be seated. The court is back in session, and I now give the floor to the International Deputy Co-Prosecutor to put his questions to this civil party. And please be informed that you have 30 minutes to put question to this civil party. You may now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Madam Civil Party. I want to first go back and ask you a few follow-up questions about your work at the 1st January dam. Do you remember, did you have a specific quota of the amount of cubic meters of earth or dirt that you had to dig each day? Do you remember whether the workers in your unit were given specific quotas like that?
Answer. Yes, we received the work quota, and male and female worker, I mean 2 females, was put together with 1 male who was digging the earth, and the 2 female workers carried the dirt. And as for a work quota, it was about 1.5 to 2 cubic meters per day. And we were required to meet the quota set. However, in that particular place or location, the soil was so rocky, and we could not meet the quota even though we were working very hard. And the surface was solid soil, and every time we dug the surface, there would be spark as the result. The normal hole could not be used to dig that solid soil, and we had to use the racking bars. And after we could be able to dig that solid surface, then we reached another level that consisted of stone. We could not do with that kind of stone. We had to use the explosive to break that stone. And normally we were not told about the explosive which was used to break that rock. We were never told at all. We had to run and escape while we heard the explosion, and some fragments of the rock would fly and hit a worker. And there was one family's house which was hit by the big fragment of the rock. And as of now, the head of that family did not repair that hole, because he told the children that he would like to keep that damage to see today.
Can you tell us how it was monitored and determined whether you had met your quota or not? Who was responsible for doing it, and how did they monitor you to see whether you were meeting your quota?
មេក្រុងក្នុង
Answer. My group chiefs supervised and walked around to see us, and he sets the work quota. My unit chief and other unit chiefs and group chiefs would be called to attend the meeting at the Sangkat level or district level. After they receive a plan or instruction, the plan and instruction would be relayed to worker so that worker could finish the work as soon as possible. We as workers needed to work as hard as possible. Killing of people would take place because of this hard work.
Now, you've told us about this second location near the National Road where the rock, the surface that you had to dig was very hard and difficult. I just wanted to clarify the location where this was located. You said yesterday that the site near the National Road was in Kampong Tama. Can you tell us, were you on the south side of the Chinit River or the north side of the river when you were working near the National Road?
Answer. I have no idea about the direction, whether it was in the south or in the north of Chinit River. If we traveled from Kampong Tamo, the site was on the left part, west of the National Road, and there were palm trees at that place, which remain until today. During the Chumban Day, I would go there to visit. I still have bad memories about that place.
If I understood correctly, you continued to live in the same sleeping quarters next to the Trapyang Shrey Pagoda, even when you were working at this second location near the National Road. Can you tell us how far away the second site was that you worked, how many kilometers it was from where you slept, and how long it took you to walk there in the morning?
Answer. From my rough estimate, it was about 3 kilometers when we were walking from Trapyang Shrey Pagoda.
And you told us that when you began working at this second location, you were woken up at 3 a.m. in the morning so that you had time to walk there. Were you given any food, any breakfast when you were woken up at 3 a.m. before you were required to walk 3 kilometers and start your workday?
Answer. Oh, my Buddha, we did not have breakfast for ourselves. We were empty in our stomach. We were so hungry. No meal for us in the morning. And if there were cold rice made by the cook, we would secretly go near that place where there were cold rice and pick it. We would also share with our colleagues secretly to eat. And again, no breakfast at all. It was enough for us to have rice to eat. We did not have any breakfast after 1975.
So, do I understand correctly then that you were expected to get up at 3 in the morning to walk 3 kilometers to this work site and then to work until 11 a.m. before you would take a break and be given a full meal? Do I understand correctly?
Answer: yes, that is true. I never tell lies. No breakfast, no meal at all in the morning, as I told the court. As I said, when we saw cold rice, we would be so delighted. We would go secretly and pick that cold rice and put in our pockets. Most of the times, we did not have any breakfast. We could have that cold rice once in a while. We did not even have cold rice to keep for supplement diet. It would be, we would be even happier if we had the cold rice to eat.
Now, you've mentioned that the sleeping quarters that you had were next to the Trapeang Shrey Pagoda. Can you tell us what was that pagoda used for during the Khmer Rouge regime, the pagoda at Trapeang Shrey?
Answer: the pagoda was left alone in that period. Those from Barai commune were told to stay in that area. They were put together in that place. When workers were assigned to work in other locations, they were instructed to stay in that particular place, that is Trapeang Shrey Pagoda.
During the time you were working at the First January Dam, were there any monks at that pagoda? Was anyone allowed to practice Buddhism there?
Answer: no monks at all. No monk at all after 1975. It was until I arrived in Barai district, I knew a man named No, who was my friend when we were young. He was a monk, but he was armed. and he was instructed to disrobe. He was in Mangkhut when I saw him. His name was No. He was living in Barai. No was the son of Dr. Sawat. We were friends when we were young. Mr. Sawat, he was the physician, and my father and this doctor knew each other. As for No, he disrobed in early 1976. He was the last one of the monks who disrobed in that area. I knew that he had a gun or a rifle because I was told by a base person there. I was told that No was a monk, but he was armed. I did not witness and saw his gun, but I was told by someone else about the fact that he was armed.
Madam Civil Party, did you get to choose whether or not you would work at the 1st January dam site? Did you have a choice?
Answer: no, I did not get to choose. I had no choice. A base person could complain or refuse the assignment. As for new person, we could not make any complaint or refuse the assignment. When we asked to go and do the work, we had to go. We had no rights. No rights at all. We were so unhappy, but what can we do besides weeping and sobbing? It was so difficult to be not able to refuse the assignment. Perhaps you can understand how difficult the situation was.
I want to turn now and ask you a few more questions about your father. You've told us how you learned from your siblings that your father had been arrested and killed. I just wanted to ask you, you say in your civil party application that your father was killed at Wat Beret Chandek. Did your siblings tell you how they knew that your father had been taken to Wat Beret Chandek?
Answer: normally, people would know the location of the killing and detention sites. I was told by someone that Barai Chondaik was a main prison. Every prisoner, not only from the 1st January dam worksite, but from other areas, would be arrested and put in that detention place. My siblings came to told me that my father was killed in Barai Chondai Pagoda. He was taken at night and never returned. I could not even weep and sob. when I heard the news, I consoled my sibling and told them to return to their workplace. I advised them to keep on working and to work hard to survive. I explained that they had to bear the situation. As I said, we could not even cry. Even we understood that my father was killed. I could only rain when there was heavy rain. I had to get things out of my heart while raining. I did not even have time to weep and cry when there were thunders and heavy rain. I was shouting and crying every time there was heavy rain. I recalled what happened. I could not cry and weep in front of other people during that period because I was afraid that I would be accused of being psychological sick. It was really hard for me at that time. I wanted to die in the period. I was very painful all over my body and in my mind. I had to bear the situation. Only when there was heavy rain, I could rain to relieve myself.
Madam Civil Party, did you ever learn why your father was taken away and killed?
Answer. The words from their mouth mean something. They could kill anyone they wanted. I could see that my father was working every day and he was working very hard. I did not know what mistake he committed. He was working very hard. He was a former teacher. He understand that he had the former link with the regime. He never refused any assignment. And I don't know the reason he was taken away and killed. I was told that my father was asked to go and carry logs. He was gone. He was gone. We were waiting for him a few days after he was gone, but he never returned. Those who knew about the arrest told me that he could not make an escape. He was put in Barai Chondai. I saw many pits and graves in that Barai Chondai location. There were skeletal remains at that place, and I believe that my father was killed there.
Can you tell us where was it that your father worked as a teacher in the prior regime, in the Lon Nol regime?
Answer. He was working as a teacher in Presi Hanu College in Kampong Cham. He was in charge of a workshop in that college. He was working in Kampong Cham, and he was a teacher until the liberation of 1975.
Do you know, was your father someone who supported the Khmer Rouge or someone who was opposed to them?
Answer: no, he did not support Khmer Rouge at all. He was not satisfied with the communist regime. Even he was convinced by someone who had the connection with that communism. He did not support at all the communism. He himself knew that Lon Nol regime would be defeated and Khmer Rouge would come to replace. One day before the 17th April of 1975, he with the principal of that school, Mr. Chuan, were afraid of being killed by Khmer Rouge. My father and that principal thought of killing the whole family members, but my mother implored my father that please do not kill the family members. I was listening to my father and mother's discussion at that time for about 1 hour. I was very terrified, and I, together with my siblings, made an escape after we heard about the discussion. My father was really terrified and afraid of communism.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to ask you, do you remember during the time you were working at the First January Dam, was there a period where some of the local Khmer Rouge cadres in Barai district or at the work site were removed or disappeared and replaced by cadres, Khmer Rouge, who came from the southwest zone? Do you have any memory of that?
Answer: I did not know at the time. I was not focusing on any other information besides working. I wanted to have enough rest so that I could work the day after. I did not pay any attention to other matters, but I believe that a base person would know about this.
Mr. President, with your leave at this time, I'd like to put on the screen and provide to the witness a photograph that's contained in her civil party papers. This photograph is in E3/4790, E3-4790, and at Khmer page 00582-093. With your leave, I'd like to provide the witness, provide the civil party with a copy of it and display it on the screen at this time.
President, you can do so.
Madam Civil Party, if you could look at this photograph and if we could put it on the screen. I want to start just by having you identify who the people are in this photograph, starting with the girl on the left side who is standing up. Who is that?
The girl who is holding a bunch of flower, that is me. And a young boy who is sitting, that is my younger brother, Sotirat. And next to him is Hunkol Tida. And the young baby sitting on the table, that is another younger brother who died during the Khmer Rouge regime. And the woman who is standing is my mother, and the man who is standing, that is my father. Rather, the woman who is sitting and the man who is sitting, both of them are my parents. Later on, they had 5 more children, so there were a total of 9 altogether.
The little baby that's being held there, was this the brother Han Sok Koma, who you talked about, who died at the hospital after your father had been taken away?
Yes, that is him, Sokoma.
Now, in regards to your mother, you indicate in your civil party statement that on the 7th of July, 1977, you received news that your mother and 5 of your siblings had been killed by the Khmer Rouge, that they had been dropped into wells in Champkar and Dung. My first question is, at the time your mother and siblings were taken away, where were they living and working? Were they also working on the 1st January dam like yourself?
My mother and younger siblings at the time were staying at the village. By that time, my father had been killed. On the day that she was called to a meeting, she asked my younger brother to come to get me at the Barai Touch in order to go to my native village. And he came to tell me that our mother wanted to see me after she returned from the meeting. Then when I met her, she asked me to pack my belongings in order to go with her. And I was thinking that why I was not called to the meeting, and I asked her where they wanted us to go, and she said that they wanted us to go to the new land. And while she was preparing her belongings, she also packed some seeds in order to plant them when we were at the new land. And I told her that, please, you go ahead, since I was not called to attend the meeting, and please write to me when you arrived at the new land. And I packed some food for her. She said that her mind was unsettling since our father had gone, and she didn't want to part from me since I was the elder sister. But I begged her to go to the new land, and I didn't know that she would die when she left. By about 10 o'clock in the morning that day, an oxcart arrived and they left, and some other villagers were also taken away by oxcarts. There was a man named James who rode an oxcart to transport the people away, and I recall clearly that the day that my mother and younger siblings went away, it was on the 7th of 77. The man was very gentle, and he used to be a village chief. And upon his return, he took the cows to tie them somewhere, and he stepped on some baskets. To me, it seems that his mind was somewhere else. And it kind of was strange to me when I saw him acting that weird. Later in the evening, Sarun, who befriended with me, although she was a new person, she waved and she embraced me and said that my mother and siblings had been killed at the Chamka on Dong. I could not believe it, and I did not believe it. I did not believe that they had been killed. How could they kill so many people? Because it was not only my family members who went away, but there were many other families who were put in ox carts and left. About 5 days later, I saw clothing of my siblings, and I saw a bra that my mother made for my younger sister. So I knew that they had gone, they had been killed.
Madam Civil Party, I have just one more thing I want to ask you about and try to clarify. The younger brother and sister who are sitting in the chairs in the photograph we've been looking at, you've identified as Soktirat, your brother Soktirat, and your sister Tida. Are these the two siblings who worked with your father at the 1st January dam? And can you clarify for us, did both of them die during the Khmer Rouge regime?
The two siblings went along with my mother. And as I said, I remember it clearly, they went away on the 7th of 77. And they were taken by an ox cart. They were lied to that they were taken to the new land, and they were told to prepare some seeds so that they could plant those seeds upon their arrival. And I learned from the man giant that he told other people that when they were being killed, they played music loudly through the loudspeaker in order to mask the sound of killing. And the execution took place at the Chamka on Dome.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party, for answering and telling us about some of these difficult matters. Mr. President, I have no further questions.
President, thank you. The Chamber would like to hand the floor now to the defense teams. And first to the defense team for Nunji to put questions to this civil party. You may proceed, Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, Council. Good morning, Madam Civil Party. I have some questions to you in relation to your work at the 1st January dam. Let me start with asking you some questions as to the organization of your group and of your unit. You testified earlier that there were about 50 females in your unit, and that the unit was divided into groups. Do you remember in how many groups your unit of 50 females was divided?
The unit was not subdivided as we were working together as a unit at the work site. No subgroups were divided, and the land plot was measured for our unit to work together.
Maybe I didn't understand you well, but I thought I heard you also talk about groups and units. So can you explain to me exactly what the groups were in terms of their relation to the unit?
Our unit was not the same as the structure of the regular mobile unit. We were in the women's unit, although we were working, mixing with the regular mobile units or with a second mobile unit. And as I said, we worked together within the unit, and the land measurement was assigned to the unit as a whole. As for the cubic meter of work quota per day, usually the work quota was assigned to one man and one male and two females within the unit to complete that set of quota.
I understand. The total group, the total number of the people from your village were about 100, if I calculated correctly. 50 women, 30 or 40 men, and 10 workers from the second mobile unit. So in total, around 100 people from your village. Is that correct?
There were only about 80 workers and not up to 100. It was around 80.
And are you able to give an estimate as to how many people of this group of 80 from your village were new people, and how many were base people, people who originally lived in the village?
People who were assigned to work at the first January Dam work site included about 20 20 new people.
And therefore around 60 base people. That is correct?
Yes, that is about right.
Do you remember if next to or adjacent to the plot that your village was assigned to work on, workers from other villages were working? So in the plot east and west, workers from neighboring villages were working. Would that be correct?
And you were asking about the work area near the village or the work site at the dam construction?
I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. I'm only asking you questions about the first January dam work site. So my question is related to whether the next plot of land that had to be worked on was occupied by workers from other villages. Is that correct?
Yes. In each commune composed of several villages. There were Tnol Thmei, Barai Toj, Barai Thum, etc. And these villages form Barai commune. And further down, there were other commune and district. And we work just along one another at the first January Dam work site. And until the end of the dam construction site, all the three sector forces were working there. And as I said, forces from all the three sectors were combined to work at the dam construction work site.
So would it be correct to say that it was at the first January dam work site, village after village after village, working each on their own plot at the dam? Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Land plots were divided according to the forces from the villages within the Baraya commune.
And is it also correct that each village, each group of workers from one village had its own sleeping quarter close by the working site?
Yes, other districts had the sleeping quarters. As for us, we always slept at Tropangchari Pagoda until the completion of the work at the first January dam work site. Every day we had to walk from our sleeping quarter at the pagoda to the work site. But for other units, other villages and communes, they had their sleeping quarters nearby the work site. And although we relocated to other sections of the dam, we still slept at that pagoda.
Was the group from your village the only group which didn't sleep close by the work site at the dam? Or were there other groups from other villages who also slept like your group at this pagoda?
Yes, there were workers from Steng Trong district who also used the pagoda as their sleeping quarter, although they had to walk for only about 1 kilometer from Steng Trong.
The people from your village who were in charge of the 80 workers from your village, were they also responsible for the way you were sleeping at night at this pagoda? Were they the ones who were responsible for instance, mats or hammocks or things like this?
That is a pitiful event. I can tell you that no mats were provided to us. We slept actually on pieces of tree barks or tree trunks which were laid on the floor, and we had to sleep on this hard surface. And you can imagine how difficult it was. However, once we fell asleep, we didn't feel the harshness of the floor. And although the roof was patched with leaves, there were holes, and when it rained, we had to get up and sit, as the tree leaves roof could not hold the rain. And then on top of that, we had to wake up early to go to work. They actually cut small trees, joined them together to form a floor for us to sleep on. And no mat was given to us. We only had a pair of clothes that we were wearing. And as for the skirt or sarong, it was filled with patches. And when it rained, we were soaked because there were holes on the roof. Then we had to still carry we had to carry earth again in the morning.
Your description of the way you were sleeping, are you referring to the premises of the pagoda, or are you referring to another place?
Inside the pagoda, long buildings or a series of long buildings were built as a sleeping quarter, and small trees were stacked together and laid out as our sleeping floor.
I will stay within your group. At one point in the morning, you said that you had some abdominal pain and that you requested somebody within the group, one superior, to have a rest that day. Who was it that you asked permission not to work and to stay at the pagoda and not working? Who was it that you asked this permission to?
I had my abdominal pain at the time due to my menstrual cycle, and I had to engage in regular heavy earth-carrying work even during my menstrual cycle. My body was trembling with pain at the time, and I had serious abdominal pain, and I could no longer carry the earth. And I requested to rest, and I was allowed to have a rest that afternoon. And that was the afternoon that my father was arrested. Because of the irregular menstrual cycle that day, I had serious abdominal pain. And of course, you cannot imagine the pain that I had to bear with at the time since you're a man, but for regular women, they would understand when they had irregular menstrual cycle.
You're right. My question was, do you remember who you asked permission? Who was it that gave you permission to rest? Do you remember?
I recalled that I sought permission from my unit chief named Anne. Anne was my unit chief, and of course she experienced the severe abdominal pain when she had her menstrual cycle as well. And as she understood about the pain and the condition, she allowed me to rest that afternoon.
And Anne was the chief of all 50 women in your unit? So all the women had to ask Anne for permission to rest if they were in the same situation as you?
Anne was my direct unit chief.
And was Anne in charge of the other 49 women from your unit as well?
Yes, she was in charge of us, the women.
Mr. President, I'm looking at the clock. Might be a good moment to stop.
President, thank you, Defense Council. It is now appropriate time for us to have a lunch break. We'll take a break now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon. Court officer, please assist the civil party at the waiting room for witnesses and civil parties during this lunch break, and invite her as well as the TPRO staff back into the courtroom at 1:30. this afternoon. Security personnel you instructed to take his pawn to the waiting room downstairs and have him returned to attend the proceedings this afternoon before 1:30. The court is now in recess.